Hello, and welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub. Today we breaking down a new wave of reports that's getting a lot of attention online. Many commentators are talking about something they claim has just happened, the activation of what they call Tier 1 payments. This term has been circulating for years, but now it's being described as moving from planning into actual action. According to these sources, Tier 1 isn't just another step at S, the very top level of the system they've been discussing. And if what they're saying is true, it could mark the beginning of a bigger process that's been talked about for a long time. To make sense of all this, we need to understand what Tier 1 even means in these conversations. The people who follow this topic often describe the financial system as having multiple layers of liquidity distribution. Tier 1 sits at the very top of that structure. It's said to include the biggest entities on the planet: major central banks, government-linked accounts, and powerful global financial institutions. So when someone claims Tier 1 is activated, basically saying the highest level of this whole supposed operation has started moving. It's kind of like flipping the master switch before anything else can happen. The idea of a tiered rollout is central to this whole storyline. After Tier 1, Tier 2 supposedly handles large institutional and humanitarian funds. Tier 3 is described as group and trust level activity. And then you get to Tier 4, which is split into A and B, where everyday holders and private individuals come into the picture. Tier 4B is the group most people following this are interested in. The claim now being made is that Tier 1 activation is what allows everything else to follow. Think of it like turning the key in a giant engine. Nothing else runs until the first spark hits. These new reports go further by saying this isn't just talk anymore. They claim that actual institutional accounts tied to Tier 1 have been funded, checked, and placed into a ready state. That means, according to these narratives, the system is not only prepped, but starting to move real funds behind the scenes. For those who have been following this for years, this is being treated as the first concrete sign that something might finally be happening at the highest financial levels. In other words, this is being described as the first domino falling in a long chain. Observers repeat that if Tier 1 really has gone live, it's a major milestone. The way the story goes, once Tier 1 liquidity starts flowing, the rest of the tiers start lining up in sequence. Even if you can't see anything happening at your local bank, the claim is that the underlying global systems are already moving. And that's an important distinction. Most of these alleged updates happen far above public view. According to these reports, this is the stage where the deeper foundational work is happening before anything reaches the public level. Now, tying this to Iraq, these sources point to the Central Bank of Iraq and its recent moves. Iraq has been talking openly about modernizing its banking systems for months. They've been testing digital tools, upgrading policies, and improving international compliance. These steps have actually been announced publicly. Many people believe this modernization is necessary before Iraq can make any big move with its currency on the global stage. So these internal upgrades get folded into the broader narrative as key preparation. One detail that gets repeated is Iraq's electronic payment testing, sometimes referred to as the digital dinar framework. Banks across Iraq reportedly received instructions to prepare for these tests. People following the topic now say that Iraq's digital upgrades and the Tier 1 activation claims seem to be happening around the same time. That's led them to argue that it's all connected, that Iraq has been preparing its systems in anticipation of a future revaluation. For some, the timing feels too close to be coincidental. There are also claims coming from people inside Baghdad's financial sector. According to these reports, government payroll systems have been adjusted with a new accounting setup. And the part that gets people talking is that these systems allegedly include rate adjustment placeholders. To followers of this story, that's a huge detail because it would only be needed if a future rate change was expected. This is being interpreted as internal proof that preparations are happening quietly in the background. When people combine all this, the alleged Tier 1 activity, the digital upgrades, and the government accounting changes, they say, the pieces start forming a clearer picture. The reasoning is that global liquidity can begin unless Iraq's system is already updated and capable of handling a new value. So the recent activity in Iraq is viewed as aligning perfectly with the external reports. In their view, it shows everything is being timed and coordinated. Timing is always a huge topic in these discussions. In past models, people say there is normally a gap between Tier 1 activation and the flow into the next tiers. Sometimes that delay is days, sometimes weeks. But right now, many believe things could move faster. The argument is that there's pressure from organizations like the IMF or the U.S. Treasury pushing Iraq to wrap up its reform process. That external pressure, combined with Iraq's own goals, is why some think the timeline might be more compressed this time around. If things unfold the way these sources describe, Tier 2 could supposedly follow shortly after Tier 1, then Tier 3, and eventually Tier 4 be the Phase 4 private holders. It's described as a chain reaction. And once the first part starts, the rest could flow through fairly quickly and in a controlled sequence. That's why many people watching this are paying close attention right now. The idea is that this isn't a single moment, but a structured rollout. Of course, that leads to the big question, the exchange rate. No official rate has been released or confirmed. But the reports claim that internal models are being tested with numbers ranging between $1.66 and $13.90. These aren't public rates. But people argue the existence of any internal testing is significant. To them, it signals that institutions are preparing for a change, even if only in a simulation environment. It helps fuel the belief that it's now a matter of timing, not possibility. Followers of the topic also point to Iraq's economic progress as support for the higher-end figures mentioned in these models. They talk about Iraq's increasing oil stability, gold reserves, and new trade relationships. But again, it's all speculation. These numbers aren't official, and nothing has been confirmed by any government or global financial authority. At the same time, people are watching major international banks. Reports say institutions like Chase, Wells Fargo, and HSBC have been running quiet updates on their systems. Some users have seen under review messages on currency screens, including for the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong. This could be totally normal system maintenance, but the timing is what keeps getting attention, especially when combined with claims of internal memos about temporary FX downtime and system adjustments. When you put these bank updates together with the Tier 1 claims, some people conclude that banks are preparing behind the scenes for a major change. Whether that's true or simply coincidence, the timing is what gets discussed repeatedly. Supporters of this storyline say that everything from consumer banks up to central banks appears to be syncing at the same moment, which they see as a major indicator. The technical claim is that once Tier 1 is live, it means the entire financial infrastructure has been tested and synced. In simpler terms, they're saying the system that moves large-scale global funds is now active under new parameters. That's why the statement Tier 1 is live carries so much weight in these communities. It's supposed to mean the entire engine has been warmed up, tested, and shifted into its first gear. On the political side, statements from Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani are also being linked to the story. He has spoken recently about Iraq entering a period of economic independence and strengthening its currency. To some, these comments feel purposeful and timed, especially when paired with Iraq's ongoing cooperation with the U.S. and surrounding countries. Followers of the narrative say these are signals that Iraq is preparing to elevate its financial position globally. For dinar holders, all of this is being taken as a sign that something might finally be moving after years of rumors. If Tier 1 activation is real, it would mark the beginning of liquidity flow at the top. And the messaging across the community right now is to stay prepared, keep your currency secure, and start thinking about what you'd do if the process continues. People are being reminded to stay alert for real, verified information, not rumors or unconfirmed posts. This period is being described as a mix of patience and awareness. The idea is that the top levels of the system must stabilize first, before anything becomes visible to the public. If the rollout does keep moving smoothly, Tier 2, Tier 3, and eventually Tier 4B could follow. That's why some believe the process could show public signs within weeks rather than months, as long as everything stays on track. People are also watching for early market reactions. Some say oil futures in the region have ticked upward, and banking sector stocks in Gulf countries are showing increased activity. This is being interpreted as regional confidence growing, possibly in anticipation of Iraq's economic progress and what a newly valued dinar could bring. Again, it's speculation, but it's part of the conversation.